This segment of Cardinal Clips, we're going to talk to Ann Trochlil and Michele White, and we're going to talk about the Minnesota Reading Corps. Ann, you want to tell us a little bit about what the Reading Corps does?
Yes. Minnesota Reading Corps is a program that offers literacy interventions and supports for students actually ages 3 through 3rd grade. And here in Willmar at Kennedy School, we do have Minnesota Reading Corps for kindergarten through 3rd grade and have had that for a couple of years. But we were fortunate this year at Jefferson Learning Center to have 2 Minnesota Reading Corps preschool tutors. And so here in our building, we have Michele White, who is a community corps member, and over at Jefferson at our Cardinal Kids site, our lead teacher, Jennifer Peters, is a professional corps member. So our members are here to support and enhance the Tier 1 literacy instruction in those settings. They collect benchmark assessments for all of our students. They use that data to determine who needs interventions to reach their spring targets, and then they offer those interventions on a daily basis in small group settings and in one-on-one settings. So
is it a little bit like RTI for young kids?
It is exactly like RTI for young kids. So everyone is getting that Tier 1, really rich opportunities to work on literacy skills. And then through these small groups and through these interventions, kids who need extra support are getting it that way too.
Why would we care about whether or not kids have literacy skills?
Those literacy skills are the quality foundation that kids need to be good readers by 3rd grade. And so when we can help close that gap for kids, when their ability to hear sounds, to segment, when they're able to rhyme and do lots of other foundational skills like that, that will help them as they transition into kindergarten and will continue to help them as they become a proficient reader as they leave 3rd grade.
So how many kids would we see as part of the Minnesota Reading Corps? How many kids do we get to work with over the course of a year?
At Cardinal Kids, actually, there are 20 kids that Jennifer is working with. And over here, I work with three classrooms of 14 kids each. All of the kids get Tier 1 interventions, which is our whole group instruction. We do literacy-rich transitions with an alphabet song. We do letter names, letter sounds, rhyming, alliteration. Then we also work with the kids that would be considered not on track to be successful readers by 3rd grade based on the data that we've collected. And I work with them in small groups of 2 to 3 children. Then we work on the skills depending on where they're at on their learning continuum. It might be vocabulary and oral language, it could be rhyming, it could be alliteration, any of those things. So,
normally, how much growth do you see?
This is the first year that I've done this, and from fall benchmarks to winter benchmarks, we saw tremendous growth, especially in the letter naming. It was amazing to see how many kids went from knowing just a few letters to really being fluent and able to name up to 20 letters within a minute, some of them.
So is it a 70% growth, 60% growth, 100% growth, or at the beginning of the year, did they know 2 letters, and when you measured them again, they knew 20? Mm-hmm.
I can say one child, for example, beginning of the year, she was fluent in 4 letters. I just did a benchmark assessment on her in January. She was fluent in 22 letters. So tremendous growth for some of them.
And how many letters in the alphabet altogether?
There's 26. However, when we test for fluency, it's not necessarily each letter. There's actually a sheet with just random letters. So we're testing for the fluency and just knowing, not necessarily knowing exactly what each letter is.
So how does it work? Do you say the letter and they say it back to you, or are they supposed to recognize it on a piece of paper? How does that work?
They recognize it on a piece of paper. There's a paper with probably 100 random letters on it, capital and lowercase letters, and we just go row by row, and they just name them off as we go. So,
Michele, could you tell us what it is that made you decide to be a Reading Corps instructor, or what kind of drove you to apply for that job?
Well, I was a preschool teacher for 12 years, and just being in the classroom and seeing how kids just enjoy listening to reading and listening to books and recognizing the importance of reading. I just have such a passion for early childhood literacy, and this position came up. I'm a college student right now, and my instructor said you should really check this position out, and I did. I applied for it, talked to Jody and Steve, and knew this is what I want to do. It's so rewarding to know that I'm helping these little people on their journey to becoming fluent readers by the time they're third graders. So,
how many kids can we help during the course of a year?
I think any child that we can have a conversation with, anytime you're building those vocabulary words by introducing new words and stories, anytime we're reading to them, I can personally only help each child that I meet with, but I think, passing on the tools that I have to other teachers in other classrooms, they can also help the children that they're with.
Because of that Tier 1 instruction, really all of the students in the classrooms that Michele works with are all being impacted, and all of their scores are improving, whether they are pulled out for those Tier 2 small group settings or not. And then that's the same with Jennifer's classroom over at Kennedy. And it's been really fun for us as a site to see the non-reading core classrooms picking up on the things that they hear her doing in the hallways, and they are implementing those things too, and they're making an impact across our whole program.
So do we see 40 kids or 60 kids or 100 kids in this age group, or just kind of a general number?
Well, I think we have 160 kids in programming. Okay. So in the preschool classrooms, that might, that number might be a little bit different. But on a big picture, that's how many kids are, in this building and in our satellite sites. So.
Now, Ann, you're in the first year of a new job, aren't you? Yeah. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, up until this fall, I was the coordinator and the teacher of Cardinal Kids Preschool, and got an opportunity to take on a new position. So my position is Community Engagement Specialist, which is a fancy, fancy name, but
it's pretty weighty.
I know. And so I've been working a lot with our teachers in-house with some internal coaching of 2 new programs that we're doing, including Minnesota Reading Corps, and then also working with some training of staff here at the Jefferson site. And we've also been able to invite other programs, other early childhood programs around our area. And then I've been working with our satellite programs, which would be the YMCA and Sue Yoakum's daycare, to do some mentoring and coaching there. We're working on some grants and lots of different opportunities and things to move our program in new directions as we look at the importance and continuing to build what's happening in the early childhood community here.
So, Ann, could you tell me who the early childhood programs that we're talking about are intended for? What's a typical child look like that walks in the door?
Our programs are really available for anyone to attend in our community. But really, it's important that we reach students who are considered at risk. And so at risk might be low income. It might be English as a second language. It might be that they're on an IEP. There are many different ways to define at risk. So probably close to 67% of the students who come are receiving some sort of scholarship, and that would be based off of those at-risk indicators.
So, in essence, what the 2 of you are is the first defense at narrowing the achievement gap that is so wide amongst our children as they get older. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that would be correct. Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a super job. I hope you both like it.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Very, very rewarding, for sure.